Welcome to the 8th installment in my 9-day bike trip series, where I'm exploring central and eastern Ontario from the seat of my bicycle. In this episode, I'll be riding from Provincial Park to Emily Provincial Park and passing through the city of Peterborough along the way. The area surrounding Peterborough is geographically characterized by the Peterborough drumlin field, which means my ride today will include a lot of climbing up and down hills. However, I'm expecting my main obstacle today to be the weather, because the forecast shows a 90% chance of showers for almost the entire day. So today is Saturday, May 25th, 2019, and I was awoken this morning in my tent at Provincial Park by the sound of birds chirping. I was up this morning at around 7 a.m. and got to work getting everything packed up and ready to go. For breakfast, I had a delicious serving of overnight oats with some orange juice to drink. As I packed up this morning, I put extra effort into ensuring that all my gear was as watertight as possible, since I'm expecting to get rained on today. By 8 a.m. I was on the road and ready to ride. Since I'll be heading west today, I decided to exit the park via the Rainy Gorge suspension bridge. At the end of the bridge, there's a slight bump in the transition from the bridge to the ramp, and when I hit it, this happened. Oh, that is really not good. Oh. So thankfully I'm 100% okay and I didn't even fall off my bike, but unfortunately the impact from that small bump caused one of the welds supporting the bottom of my seat to fail. This is a pretty big problem considering I still have more than 200 kilometers of riding left to do on this trip. As I continued to ride, I could tell that the other 3 welds supporting that plate were able to support my weight, but as I rode I could feel the plate flexing up and down. If I let it continue to flex like that, I'm sure the other welds will fail pretty quickly, so the solution I came up with was to buy a small C-clamp, which I could use to close the gap and hopefully support my weight. So far it seems to be working, but I'm really afraid that the clamp could easily slip off, since the tube it's fastened against has a round profile. On my way out of Campbellford, I made a quick stop to see their giant $2 coin. Better known by most Canadians as the toonie, the polar bear graphic that appears on this coin was designed by a local Campbellford artist named Brent Townsend. I made my way out of Campbellford along the main road, heading in the west direction. I'm really thankful that the issue with my seat happened at a point in my trip when I was so close to a town, and I was able to find a solution so quickly. When you ride a bike with such unique parts, it's kind of a coin flip when something breaks whether you'll be able to fix it or not. Obviously I wouldn't have been able to find a replacement recumbent seat in Campbellford, but even in a city like Toronto I'd likely have to order one. Hopefully my C-clamp solution can get me home, and I can deal with finding a permanent solution there. At the top of this rather big hill I could feel rain starting to fall on me, so I stopped to put on my jacket. Coming down the other side of the hill, I saw a big group of people riding motorcycles in the other direction. I'm sure they're not thrilled that it started raining either. At the bottom of the hill is the community of Hastings, which has a crossing of the Trent River. Hastings has a population of a bit more than 1,000 and is part of the municipality of Trent Hills. Hastings is also home to Lock 18 on the Trent-Severn Waterway. Between here and the point where I crossed the Trent River this morning on the suspension bridge, there are 5 other locks. If you were to continue west from here along the river, it opens up and becomes Rice Lake. After leaving Hastings, I've now entered the township of Asphodel Norwood, which is part of Peterborough County. At this point the rain has become quite steady, and it's nearly impossible to keep the water off my camera lens. However, when I make these videos, my goal is to make the viewer feel like they're out here riding with me, and a wet camera lens gives a much more accurate simulation of what it's like riding today. I'm now approaching the community of Norwood, which has a population slightly bigger than Hastings. Norwood has a few restaurant options where I could stop, but the time is only about 10 a.m. and I'm hoping to make it to Peterborough before stopping for lunch. I headed north out of Norwood and made a left turn onto a road called Dummer Asphodel Road. As the name might suggest, this road forms the boundary between the townships of Douro Dummer and Asphodel Norwood. I'll be following the straight line of this road all the way from here to the city limits of Peterborough. Behind this water droplet is the West Ouse River, which I'm crossing over. Although this road follows a consistent heading, there are many ups and downs along it as it crosses over many drumlins. Since it's raining today, I've left my portable AM/FM radio inside my dry pannier, so I don't have anything to listen to help pass the time. I'm now approaching the Indian River, which flows from here down to Rice Lake. The time is now just after 11, and I've traveled 47 kilometers so far. It seems like the rain has started to clear up a bit, because I don't feel any raindrops at the moment. Sadly, that feeling was short-lived, and the rain started again at the top of the next hill. On the plus side, at least there's no wind today. The view of the road up ahead is a pretty accurate representation of what the terrain has been like for me for most of the day. Just outside of Peterborough, the road I was riding on merges with County Road 4 and becomes Park Hill Road, which is relatively busy. I'm now entering the city of Peterborough and approaching a crossing of the Trent Canal. Peterborough is home to 5 locks on the Trent-Severn waterway, including the Peterborough Lift Lock, which is the world's largest hydraulic lift lock. Just before I reached the Otonabee River, I turned left and followed the Rotary Greenway trail. The path that this trail follows used to be a railway line and includes a nice bridge across the Otonabee River. The White Tower belongs to Peterborough's Quaker Oats factory, and this here is the London Street generating station. After getting off the trail, I made my way through the rainy streets of Peterborough. So the time is now around noon, and my plan for today has always been to stop for lunch here in Peterborough. Today I won't be stopping in a restaurant, however, because my grandmother lives in Peterborough, so I'm heading over to her house for lunch today. When I arrived at the house, I was greeted with a warm hug, even though I was soaking wet. Before lunch, I sat down at the piano and played a few tunes, but found it a bit tricky because my hands were still quite cold from the rain. So I ended up staying for nearly a full 2 hours and had a really great visit. For lunch we had soup and sandwiches, and it was a delicious and very filling meal. After saying my goodbyes, I got back on the road and continued my way towards Emily Provincial Park, which is northwest of Peterborough. I was very pleased to find that when I came back outside, the rain had completely stopped. On my way out of Peterborough, I rode past the hospital and also got a nice view of one of the water towers. The terrain within Peterborough is much like the surrounding farmland, with lots of drumlins to climb up and down through the neighborhood streets. I made my way up to Park Hill Road, where I continued west and headed out of Peterborough. Even though it's no longer raining, I'm still wearing my jacket because it's actually quite cold out. The thermometer says 16 degrees Celsius, but wearing slightly damp clothing it feels much colder. Eventually I turned off this road and headed north along a quieter road and crossed over the Omemee rail trail. When I was planning my route, I had been considering taking this trail, but I ultimately decided not to. If I had chosen to take the trail, I would have missed out on a lot of really interesting scenery, including the Lily Lake Solar Farm. This facility has a nameplate capacity of 10 megawatts and was one of Ontario's first large-scale solar projects. In 2017, they added sheep to the farm, who can safely graze amongst the solar panels and provide an added benefit of helping to maintain the vegetation. This territory is still characterized by rolling hills, but something that makes this area unique from where I was riding earlier is that the low-lying areas seem to be marshland. Since leaving the city limits of Peterborough, I'm now riding within the township of Selwyn, which is part of Peterborough County. The time is now 2:30, and I've ridden a total of 72 kilometers. I'm really enjoying riding on these extremely quiet country roads. When I leave my large city to go on these trips, these are the kind of roads I look forward to riding on the most. I'm now riding west along Cottingham Road, and I've entered the city of Kawartha Lakes. Kawartha Lakes is a single-tier municipality which encompasses the communities of Bobcaygeon, Fenland Falls, Lindsay, Omemee, and Woodville. I haven't felt a single raindrop since before going inside for lunch. As much as riding in the rain can be an inconvenience, it's really not that bad if you're physically and mentally prepared for it. If I can see a day of rain coming ahead on a tour like this, I mentally prepare myself for the worst case scenario, which is a day of non-stop rain. Starting the day with that mindset means I can be appreciative of all the hours when it's not raining, as opposed to disappointed by all the hours when it is raining. I'm now heading north and passing through a community called Bethel on a road which has intermittent sections of rough pavement and gravel. On the top of this pole there's an osprey nest. When I approached it, the large mother bird came out of the nest and was screeching and flapping her wings at me, thinking I was some kind of predator. After coming over the crest of a hill, I got sight of a very dark sky up ahead. It's quite a spectacular sight to see, and I almost feel like this road is leading me to the edge of the earth. These cows really aren't sure what to make of the dark sky either, but at least none of them are laying down, so perhaps they aren't expecting more rain coming quite yet. This gravel road is actually quite smooth, but since it's still wet, I can unpleasantly feel the bottom of my bike getting caked in large clumps of mud. Despite the angry-looking sky, I haven't felt any raindrops yet. This runner coming up the hill is the first human I've seen for quite a few kilometers. I've certainly been noticing a lot of cows grazing, and I'd say that beef is probably one of the most dominant types of agriculture within the territory I've covered today. Eventually the road I was riding on ended, and I turned and headed west along a busier road. When considering dinner options for this evening, the nearest community to the park which has restaurants is called Omemee, but it's more than 7 kilometers away from my campsite. However, in my research I discovered that there's a small marina with a gas station, which is very close to the park, and according to Google Maps also has a diner. It's not nearly dinner time yet, but I rode past it to check it out, and unfortunately discovered that the diner is presently closed for renovations. Behind the building there's a nice view of the Pigeon River looking north. Further north from here the river widens and becomes Pigeon Lake, which is one of the Kawartha lakes. So since I won't be able to return here for dinner, I decided to pick up some packaged foods from the adjoining convenience store that I can eat at my campsite tonight. So just up the road from there I've now arrived at Emily Provincial Park, which is my 5th and final Ontario Provincial Park on this 9-day tour. The time is now 4 p.m. and I proceeded to the gatehouse to purchase a camping permit for the night. I can see my bike and my panniers have collected quite a bit of mud from the road. The campsite I selected is within an area known as the Hill Campground. On my way there I spotted this unusual looking light brown squirrel. Emily Provincial Park was first established in 1957, and the name Emily comes from the name of the former township which was here before the amalgamation of Kawartha Lakes. My first order of business after arriving at my campsite was to set up my clothesline so I could start letting things dry. My seat cover and seat cushion are the most important things to get dry because I really don't want to be sitting on a wet sponge tomorrow morning. However, at 5:30 the rain started again, so I had to bring everything inside the tent. I'm certainly glad I ended up buying packaged food for dinner and don't need to ride to a restaurant to eat. By 8 o'clock the rain had stopped, so I hung my stuff up to dry again and decided to go for a walk to explore the park. I ventured down to the river as the sun was starting to set. If I had arrived here on a sunny day, I probably would have wanted to come for a swim here. With all the clouds in the sky, it's really nice to watch the sunset from here. Quite a contrast from those black clouds I saw while I was riding earlier. As I was walking I noticed my breath condensing, which is a phenomenon I'm accustomed to seeing only in the winter. The temperature is only 15 degrees Celsius, but the relative humidity is 95%, which makes the condensation possible. These beautiful colorful clouds in the sky kind of remind me of cotton candy. While I was walking along the water I saw many red-winged blackbirds calling out to one another. Back at my campsite I had a quick shower and then prepared my final day's worth of overnight oats for tomorrow. If you're interested in trying out the recipe that I used, check out my overnight oats tutorial video which I'll be posting after my trip series is complete. So today I rode a total of 88 kilometers, and according to Strava I had a total of 825 meters of elevation gains, which is a new all-time high for me thanks to all those drumlins. Stay tuned for the final episode in this video series, where tomorrow I'll ride from here at Emily Provincial Park to the town of Aurora, where I can catch a GO train back to my home city, Toronto. Throughout the long ride I'll certainly be crossing my fingers that my C-clamp seat repair can get me all the way home. I hope you enjoyed joining me for day number 8. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.